Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the podcast Podtalks with Alyssa here on Thursday. Today we're going to be talking about something that most of you guys have been dealing with or experiencing in the past few months or maybe weeks. And this is something that also our clients are experiencing lately. All of us are experiencing, I think, and it's stress. And this is something that can really influence and affect our fitness because whenever we're stressed, what happens? Our cravings got really high, we tend to eat a little bit more, or we use food as a coping mechanism to help us deal with that stress. So we're going to be talking about exactly how stress can affect you and your fitness journey. And we're also going to share some tips with you guys to help you cope and deal with that stress and ensure that you're feeling better and we're not using that food as a coping mechanism to help you deal with that. But before we get started, Alyssa, how are you? Thank you for being here. I hope you're feeling better because I know last week you were feeling a little bit sick.
Yes, so much better this week, thank gosh. Still recovering. It's funny, like sometimes you get those sicknesses where it takes like 2 days to recover, and then there's some that
Mhm.
take like a week, sometimes more.
Yeah.
So yeah, just I feel like it's lingering a bit, but just still getting it done and just going about my normal day to try to push through and just yeah, I feel like I'm just more tired than usual. So I just go to bed earlier, which I already go to bed super early. So it's like
Yeah. What time do you go to bed?
like 9 and like I'm like I could go to bed like 7:38. That's not good.
How do you do it? Tell us your
Oh,
secret.
that's why when people are like, "Oh, you want to have kids?" I'm like, I'm just not ready for the
Mm,
like. I'm like a routine sleep
mhm,
girl. Like this is the time I go to bed. This is the time I wake up. So, um, yeah. But yeah, no good. This week I'm excited to talk about this topic because I think it's something that both our clients struggle with and like ourselves. We go through periods
mhm.
where we have like stress and we have weeks where it's busier than others.
Yeah.
So just like how to navigate through that. I'm really big on not letting stress, and this has obviously taken time, not letting stress actually derail you
Mhm.
because stress is always going to be there. There's always going to be
Yeah.
some sort of stress in your life. I don't think when someone says they've got a completely stress-free life, I'm like, is it
Mhm.
complete? Like there would be
Yeah.
little things. Obviously you can minimize that. That's why when you go on holidays, you feel so like liberated and
Mhm.
free because you don't have those usual day-to-day things that you need to stay on top of. You don't have those life stresses. So yeah, I think this will be a good topic and it'll be really helpful for everyone listening.
Yeah, I think you maybe let's talk about a little bit like what is stress? Because like stress, I feel like whenever people hear the word stress, straight away we assume like it's so bad, like you shouldn't be feeling stress, like stress is so unhealthy. Which yes, to an extent, it can become unhealthy if it's too much. But stress can be healthy because that's the way of your body responding to something. Like it's your body activating that fight or flight response to help you. Let's say
Yes.
someone chasing you, you want to activate that stress so you can run away, run really quick. If something is happening, you can react to that situation really quick, but it becomes unhealthy when that stress becomes chronic. And I think
Yep.
nowadays it's easier to have that chronic stress because one,
Definitely.
technology, there's so many things going on whenever you have your phone, notifications for us, let's say online coaches, we always have notifications in our phones,
Oh,
messages,
yeah.
WhatsApp, TV,
Yeah.
emails,
Yeah.
this, that, you have to do this project or this program is due in the next 24 hours. Like there's a lot going on, not just for us, but for everyone. There's a lot going on. If you have kids, family, if you're looking after your parents, there's a lot going on, and that's why I feel
Mm.
like it's easier nowadays, and I feel like it's gonna get worse with time for people to
Yeah.
feel more stress, and you just want to feel like every single day you are in this fight or flight response, which
Yeah.
again, chronic stress isn't really healthy, and that's why it affects you with your fitness, with your eating, with your training, with like your day-to-day life, with everything that you're doing.
Mm. And that's why it's
Yeah.
important not to, I think people put too much on their plate. Um, and then they're like, why am I so stressed? And it's like that sometimes is, have you put that on yourself,
Mm,
because you're taking on too much. I was a big, like back when I was even like probably 5, 6 years ago, I used to take on so much thinking I could handle it to the point where I burnt out. There's only so long you can do that for. So you
mhm.
really have to sit down and kind of decide, okay, what is going to be priority for me and what can I actually fit into my life and my schedule? Because the last thing you want is every day to wake up and like, oh, dread the day already.
Yeah.
Like you should wake up full of happiness and like ready to conquer the day. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're not going to have every day where you're like super positive, but you don't want to start the day bad because you've got so much on your plate. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the thing, and something that I've worked on, something that I've been able to pass on to my clients as well, because a lot of the clients that I like that come to me, they do have a lot of stresses in their life, and this is what has stopped them,
Yeah.
and it's a big limit, like, or like an obstacle for them from getting to their goals. So I think it's just important to remember that don't take on too much. You can say no. You can, turn down things if it's
Yeah.
going to benefit you and or your family in the long run. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think like saying people struggling or we struggling with saying no and not setting those boundaries, it can make it easier for us to feel more stress or have more stress because we feel like we can take on more things. If your boss or your manager tells you like, hey, you have to do this or that, you're gonna be like, yeah, give it to me, give it to me. But not knowing how to say no and not having those boundaries very clear, you want to be the only one that is going to be doing this to yourself. It's not
Yeah.
them, it's not work giving you more work, it's not this happening, it's you not being clear with how you feel or how much you can take on, and you not being able to say no. And I know, like, for so many people, for me including before, like, it used to be so scary. Like, I don't want to say no. Like, I don't want to disappoint people. But if you're not
Yeah.
disappointing people, yeah, you don't want to let them down. But what about yourself? You're letting yourself down. You're disappointing yourself because you're taking on so much and you're letting this affect you, your health, your mental health, because you're just gonna feel like there's too much to take, too much going on. You feel like there's too much pressure. And that's why we often feel like we have that heavy weight on our shoulders because we have that tension, you have those thoughts, you have everything. And it's like, stop doing that to yourself. Like, learn how to say no. And obviously, easier said than done. Easier said than done. Anyone can be like, yeah, just say no. It's simple, but I know it's not that simple. Especially if you've been someone that it's used to saying yes to everything and to everyone. But just like
Yeah.
anything, it takes time, and it doesn't only take time, but it takes work and
Mm.
patience to be able to practice that skill of saying no, because saying no is a skill. I know it sounds kind of funny, but saying no, it's actually a skill that you can develop just like any other skill. If you want to learn a new language, if you want to learn how to use that laptop or that cell phone, it's something that you have to practice and something that you have to be consistent with. So I think that will be probably one of the main tips, or the first tip that we can give you guys, like, set your boundaries, learn how to say no, and that's going to help you reduce that stress. Because if
Mm.
not, like I said before, that's really going to affect your fitness. And I think one of the main reasons why it affects your fitness, especially your nutrition, because whenever we are feeling too stressed, your body's gonna release cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And whenever your body releases that stress hormone, your body's gonna be craving more of that high fat, high sugar food. Why?
Mm.
Because when you have that, then your
Keep
body's
going.
gonna release,
Yeah.
it's gonna release dopamine, and then dopamine is that neurotransmitter that makes you feel good. And you want
Mm.
to keep feeling good, so you want to keep having those fries in that, I don't know, that burger or that fish and chips, whatever you're having, but you want to have that. And we want to stop that mechanism. We don't want to continue feeding into that. Otherwise, you're going to prolong it, and then nothing's going to happen. So I think, yeah,
Mm.
that's one of the main ways you can affect your fitness. But what do you think another way that this stress can affect your fitness?
I think just like you said, it's just setting off all these, especially when you're highly stressed, it does affect your hormones. And I think people don't realize that.
Yeah.
And that's probably the number one thing that you need to be careful of, because it's just a natural reaction that your body will have when you're stressed. Most likely when you're stressed, you're tired as well. So when you're tired, your body is like fighting to stay awake. It doesn't want like nutritious food. It just wants like
Mm,
high sugar food to kind of keep you going. So
yeah.
I feel like that's why a lot of people go down that path. But also there's the other side of it where I don't know if you've seen this as well. There's some people when they're highly stressed, what they actually do is they skip a lot of meals and they don't eat
Yeah.
because they're so like consumed with everything
Yeah.
that like I can't believe people say they forget to eat. I'm like, how do you forget to eat? Like it's something you just do, but because they're so consumed by everything going on, they neglect their nutrition. And these are the people that commonly will go all day without eating, and then they get to the night and they're like, oh, I haven't eaten all
Mm.
day. They
And
just
then
stuff
they
them.
just eat. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very common thing that I've seen as well, that other side of it. So you've just got to be really careful, what you're doing in your day, that it's not leading to you making bad choices and bad habits. And at the end of the day, you are in control of your life. Yes, I do believe that people have more stressful jobs than others, but it's all about how you deal with these, how you react to these situations. And another thing as well, like you were saying before, learning to say no. If you have had a full-on week and then you're going to jam-pack your weekend because you can't say no, well, you're going to feel that way. Like I've got a lot of girls that will get to the week and they're like, I haven't had time for my meal prep. And I'm like, well, you've got to do it. You've got to make time, because at the end of the day, if you want to achieve results, you've got to make that a priority. I learnt a long time ago to say no to a lot of things, because I was always worried about upsetting people, worried about, oh, what are people going to think if I don't go, and it's not like I say no to everything, but it's like, if I know I'm going to have to run around to 4 different events on a weekend, I'm not going to do that to myself, because then that's just going to stop me from setting up my week, successfully. And it's going to obviously ruin my progress and my mental state. So I think people need to understand that whilst you're so caring about other people, you've got to care about yourself first, and it's like, that's not selfish. That's just, you are a better person when you are on top of things, when you are healthy, when I've done my meal prep, I've done my workouts. I know myself, like, if I didn't do that, I would be like, I just would not have the time for anyone, because I'm so, like, annoyed and frustrated all the time. So I think people need to start looking at it like that, Yeah, okay, it is about other people as well, and you can't be fully selfish, but think about yourself too. And being the best version of yourself comes from adopting healthy habits. So if that means setting aside meal prep for 2 hours a week, well, that's what you have to do. And, this is where I say to people as well, don't make it hard for yourself. There's so many meal prep
Don't
hacks,
overcomplicate it.
ways that you can make it easy for yourself. I think people, when they think meal prep, they automatically think, I need like 3 to 5 hours a week. I don't have that. You don't need, you can, like for example, I went away not last weekend, the weekend before. I got back, like I went interstate. I got back like Sunday, maybe like 4:30 p.m. Still got my meal prep done. No excuse. I've been gone for like 4 days, but I still made that a priority. My meals were just more easily to prep. Like it wasn't things where I had to cook so much and, be in the kitchen for hours. I just made different choices that week, to make it more convenient for me, but I still got it done. And I feel like that's what really separates you from, or separates people from actually getting results long term, and the ones that kind of are always falling off. If you just let all these stresses, these events get in the way of your goals, well, you're never going to achieve what you want. So you've got to decide, like, what's worth it? You being super stressed all the time and frustrated, or, maybe you say no sometimes and actually having more happiness, more peace, more like a better mental state overall.
And I like how you mentioned earlier, like you say something and you're like, I don't want to do this to myself. I think that just shows that you're putting yourself as your priority, which is something we should be doing, because if you're not prioritizing yourself, who is going to prioritize you? And I think that's like one mistake that I hear all the time, when I talk to different women from different ages, different backgrounds, most of them say like, I never put myself as a priority. It's always my work, or it's always my kids, it's always my family, but I'm always the one last on my list to prioritize myself. I'm like, how do you want to help them? How do you want to be more productive at work if you're not prioritizing yourself? Like, if you're not looking after yourself, and that shouldn't even be something that you should be thinking about it twice. Like, should I look after myself? I feel like that's just be like, it's yourself. You only have one life. You only have one everything. So why waste that? You're the only one that can control that. Like, literally, you're the only one that can control that. So why not take that control back? If that control wasn't there before, it's fine. It happens to all of us. But I think once you realize that this is worth it because it's worth it for me, it's gonna be easier for you to change that picture and then be like, you know what? Actually, this is worth it. I'm gonna start prioritizing myself. I'm gonna start setting those boundaries, saying no to people, and doing the things that are worth it for me. And I think something else that can help you as well, when people say, and I'm so guilty of this before, not too much now, but before, like we often say like, I'm so stressed. Or maybe we say like, I am such an anxious person. But we're not really, your personality or your identity, it's not being stressed. It's not being anxious. That's something that right now maybe you are identifying with, but that's not you.
Yeah.
So instead of
100%.
saying I am stressed or I am anxious,
Yeah.
we need to change that, reframe that, and say like I am experiencing stress. Like right now, I'm experiencing a little bit of stress. Or right now, I am experiencing a little bit of anxiousness. There's quite a bit going on at work, but I'm experiencing that feeling because that feeling, that emotion, it's here, which is, yes, it's an emotion. And you yourself, it's here. Right
Yeah.
now, you're putting it together, but we don't want that. That's why every single day you're like, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed. And you're making yourself feel more stressed. Once we dissociate, once we separate those two, it's gonna make it easier for you. Yeah, because then you're gonna stop telling yourself those things. Because I think sometimes it's just us and the things that we tell ourselves.
And it's like labeling yourself. Like I
Labeling,
feel
exactly. Yeah.
like I was having this conversation with my brother the other day, and we're talking about how like people automatically say, I've got anxiety. And it's like, no, that's what you're feeling at that time. And they convince themselves that they've got anxiety, but they're putting themselves constantly in anxious situations.
Yeah.
So obviously if you're doing that all the time, you're then convincing yourself, oh, am I depressed? Oh, do I have anxiety? Or do I have, like
Exactly.
me and my brother was saying, like we've never felt, like, how can I say it? Like we've never been like, we've had depression, but we've had times where we felt down. We've had times where we felt anxious, but we don't put a label on it because I think at the end of the day, you control what you do around you. And if you are someone that is waking up every day and is like, oh my God, I don't want to do this because I've got really high anxiety right now. Think about what you're doing that's causing that, or the people around you that are causing that, and really think about what can you change to make it better for yourself and to make your life stress-free. And like you said before, it's an emotion that is like attached to you, and you are in control of that. You know what I mean? But you don't want to then label yourself as that, because that's not you're right. I love how you said that. It's not your identity. Your identity isn't, it shouldn't be combined with an
That's stress.
emotion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I also think like because nowadays everyone is feeling stressed, everyone is feeling anxious. And I feel like people are just like throwing those terms around without maybe really knowing what being anxious or feeling anxious means, or without even knowing what feeling stress actually means. It's just like, yeah, everyone feels anxious nowadays. Yeah, I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling stressed. But ask yourself, like, are you really experiencing that stress? Are you really experiencing that anxiousness? Because remember, reframe that experiencing. Like, what are you experiencing? I'm not saying that you're not experiencing that, but I'm just saying, think about it if it's really what's happening to you right now. Is it that you're really experiencing those emotions? Or is it just because most people are experiencing that? And because maybe you have one little symptom or one little sign, you feel like you have that. So it's like, trying to
You've
put
got to
everything in a
really,
balance.
you've got to have that ability to distinguish between, okay, what am I feeling right
Yeah.
now? Why? And I think people don't, like we're speaking about this last podcast, people don't actually sit with their thoughts. It's like the whole thing as well.
Because
It's
it's
like,
so scary. People don't do it because it's scary. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Because they're like, oh, what's going to actually come up? But like, sit and be like, why am I feeling this way? And you'll be like, oh, I'm feeling this way because I'm, working 3 jobs. I'm, not having time for myself. I'm not doing anything. Like a lot of women that come to me, they're like, I feel so horrible because I've not made the time for myself. And it's like, okay, what are we going to change? What's going to be different for you to be able to make this, like that little bit of time for yourself? You know what I mean? So, and and some people might like say, oh, it's easier for you. You don't have kids, you don't have a family, you don't have this. And we still have other stress in our life. It's not just always
100%. Yeah.
family, but I think both of us, we've kind of been able to adopt strategies to, like you said before, say no, cut back and do all that. But it takes time, and I'm really, I try to tell these people, like, I have people come to me, they're like, oh my gosh, I've got like 4 events on. I'm dreading this weekend. I just want it to be over. And I'm like, I want you to stop. And like I say this and they kind of like get taken back. I'm like, I want you to stop and think, you're dreading going to all these things. So
Yeah.
why don't you maybe say no to one of them so you can actually feel present when you go to these things and actually enjoy them because you know,
Mm.
oh, I've got time for myself. Like even me, I'm always a forward thinker, but like I know this weekend, my usual day for meal prep is going to have to change around because I've got something on. But at
Mm-hmm.
least I'm aware I'm still making time for that. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to go into that event feeling like shitty or frustrated because I'm like, well, I still made it happen. I still changed my, days around. So I think it's about being aware of, okay, maybe don't take on too much, learn to say no so that I can actually enjoy the events that I go to. Because then I just don't understand it. Like, why are you dreading the weekend, dreading going to all these things?
Mm-hmm.
You're in control. You can say, and it's not about saying no to everything. You don't have to say no to every single thing, but
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like you can decide, okay, maybe this weekend, this event is maybe something that I don't really need to be at, or I don't need to organize. Maybe I'll just go to, if it's something that's only like obviously like a wedding or, a baby shower or something that's only going to happen once, different story. But
Mm.
I feel like people they just put up too much on their plate.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, the way that I see things, it's like this is my life. So it's
Yeah.
my choice. If I want to go, whether I want to go to my friend's house, for example, or not, it's my choice. If
Yeah.
she gets angry, she can get angry if she wants, or she can get upset. But it's my
Yeah.
choice not to go because I have my reasons. And my reasons are
Yeah.
that I want to stay at home, rest. I had maybe too much going on the week or whatever. But it's your choice. That whatever you do it by choice. No one can force you to do something that you don't want to do. It's all
Mm.
because you want to do it. Or
Yeah.
sometimes just because you're scared. So you do those things. And I
Yeah.
think also like something that I was gonna mention earlier, another reason why people get or why we get so stressed is because we're constantly thinking about the future. We're constantly thinking about like, what if this happens? What if that happens? Like we're constantly thinking about the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
if you change that? And it's that instead of thinking about what's the worst thing that can happen if I don't finish this, if I don't do that, what do you think about like what's the best thing that can happen if I'm able to finish this on time? What's the best thing that can happen if I'm able to do this thing or whatever? But I think just stop. We just need to stop seeing like the worst outcome and try to
Yeah.
see the positive side. Like, what's the best thing that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen if I don't know, if something happens, but just changing that perspective and trying to stay a little more positive,
Mm.
it helps.
Definitely.
It does make a difference. It makes a huge difference. It's
So
like those
far.
little changes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Those little changes that we do. And it's like, I think just like anything, it takes time. Obviously
Yeah.
you won't be able to change or be this way overnight. Like, yeah, after you
Yeah.
listen to this podcast, you're gonna apply everything. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you have to consciously and also be motivated to make the change. You have to,
Yeah.
that awareness, understand
Yeah.
what's going on, understand how I'm feeling, and also understand what things I need to change. I think
Yeah.
once you have that awareness, because if you're not aware of your feelings or what's going on, what are you going to change if you don't
Yeah,
know what
that's
the
right.
problem is? But if you're
Yeah.
aware of what the problem is or what's going on, then you're able to change that. And then you will
Yeah.
be like, hey, I'm willing to make the change. I'm willing to apply new strategies or change things around to make it work. So we just need to have that awareness. We need to have that dedication to put in the work and also the
Yeah.
motivation to make it happen every single time. It might not happen
Yeah.
every single time, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And
Like
the
I
slower
think
you
about
can.
me, it took me years to actually like, learn how to do that, how to cut back, how to make sure that I have less stress in my life. Like it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So I think people need to understand that as well. Like you can't just wake up tomorrow and be like, all right, that's it. Like I'm not going anywhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think people go like they look into it too much. It's like, just
Mhm.
think about, I always say to people, one thing at a time. What is
Yeah.
one thing that you do right now or this week that's going to make it a little bit easier for you, a little bit of
Mhm,
more pressure?
mhm.
Just one thing, you know what I mean? And it might have to mean sacrificing a little bit, but it's worth it, you know what I mean? And it's funny, like even, people will know, like my husband and I, like sometimes we'll be like, look, we can't make it because like we've had a really busy week and we actually need to like clean the house. We need to do this. And it's like people kind of go, oh, like that's a weird reason not to go to that. And it's like, is it though? Like,
Yeah.
not really, because we need that time for ourselves. We need that time to get on top of things. And it's like, when you've had a busy week, I don't think it's selfish. I think a lot of people from the outside may look at it as being selfish, but I think
Yeah.
there's people around you, if they're kind of on that same level, they will understand. And I think over time, people know now, they kind of get it. They understand, like even my
Mm.
mum, she knows what we're like, my family. So I think they kind of get used to, okay, they're not doing it because they're being mean or they don't want to
Mm.
see us. They've got their, like the reasoning behind it. So
Yeah. But I feel like it's your reason, Like I
yeah,
said, your life, it's your choice, it's your reason. And people,
right.
whether they respect it or not, because obviously some people will respect it, but also
Yeah,
some people may not respect it. And that's okay. We cannot force someone to respect you or see
you
or be on
can't
the same
please.
page as you. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think as long as you are aware or okay, it's my choice, it's my decision. If they want to
yeah,
respect it or accept it, cool. If they don't, also cool. That's on
yeah,
them.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
not on me. Like
That's right.
there's
Yeah,
only so much we can do. There's only so much we can control. We cannot
yeah,
control everything, and we cannot control everyone. So it's always just
yeah,
thinking about, okay, what's under my control, what things I
yeah,
can change that are under my control. And
yeah.
that's all you can do. Like literally, that's all you can do. If
Yeah,
you worry too much about what people are gonna say, what people are gonna think about you, what my neighbors are gonna say about me, my family,
yeah, yeah. It's
you're
just
not gonna
gonna be a
change anything.
never-ending cycle. Like you'll just always, yeah. So, and you got to think as well. You're one person. You can't be pulled into so many different, areas at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be nice. You know that saying where people say like, "Oh my gosh, I need to like cut myself in half." So like
Mm,
one can do this, one can do that, and it's like if only it was that easy. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think, people need to be really aware, and maybe people listening to this as well, maybe this is a chance for you to be more understanding of someone else. Maybe,
Mm,
you've kind of thought this of someone like, oh, and then it's like, hold on a second, maybe if I look at it from this perspective, you might change your opinion about them or the way that they are. And, there's nothing wrong. Like I feel like people these days, I think it's a lot more accepted, but I think we've spoken about this before where let people know your goals.
mhm.
Let people know this is what I'm actually trying to do. I'm actually trying to lose weight. I'm actually trying to work towards my goals. Don't be ashamed of
Yeah.
admitting that you're doing something or that you're on a journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think like if you don't share your goals, I mean, yeah, I think it's up to you. Like some people like to be a little bit private. I know some people
Yeah.
like to like be very private with them. Like, I don't want to share this with anyone. I don't want
Yeah.
anyone to know, which I understand, you don't have to
Yeah.
tell everyone that you're in this fat loss journey or whatever. But I
Yeah.
think just having that communication, it does help. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
with everyone, but maybe just with your close,
Like
close family,
family,
close friends,
friends.
people.
Yeah. And I think it would get them to respect you a bit more because it's like, oh, okay, like some of them will be like, oh, wow, like that's amazing. Like, it motivates other people. Like I know that some of my clients have actually told their family members and their family members like, oh, wow. And then they've actually contacted me. They're like, oh, I want to do it now. You know what I mean? So it's like
Nice.
all
Yeah.
of that, you might actually inspire someone else. You know what I mean? So you got to think of that as well.
Yeah. And just remember like the respect that you have for yourself
Yeah.
in your body, it's something that people might not tell you, but trust me, people look up to you and they
Yeah.
respect that and they will respect you. That's why people respect you. If you don't respect yourself, how do you expect that respect back?
Yeah, that's right.
If
That's
you
right.
don't look after yourself, how do you expect that people look after
Yeah.
you? It always comes with like, it's always about the things that you do to yourself first. Then you can expect that from
Yeah.
exactly from around you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And something else I was gonna say, like another tip that can help you deal with stress. Well, a few tips. Number one, avoid if you can. If you can avoid that stressful situation or that stressor, avoid that thing. But obviously, it's not always going to be easy to avoid that situation.
Yeah.
If you're not able to avoid, then maybe you're able to change something about that situation, alter that situation. If you're not able to change something, then you can maybe start adapting to the situation, because
Yeah.
sometimes we just need to, again, there's only so much you can control. So sometimes we just need
Like
to
figure
accept the
out the right,
situation.
the
Yeah.
right path to take with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
But I
what you
think,
mean.
yeah.
Different ways to look at it because there's different stresses that are going to come your way,
Yeah.
and you can't deal with all of them the same way,
Yeah.
so that's a really good point. I like that. Like you can avoid, you can change it,
Yeah.
or just adapt to it and try
And
to,
yeah.
work around it.
And
Yeah.
also you can accept it,
Yeah.
if it's under your control.
Yeah.
If, for example, you get sick, the doctors tell you you have, I don't know, a disease, let's just say, touch wood, but let's just say you have cancer.
Mm.
There's nothing you can do about it. Yes, you can do therapy and things like that, but there's not really something that, it's not your fault. It's not something you can control. But the things that you can control is how you feel, what things you tell to yourself, what things you do on a daily basis. Those are the things that are under your control. So sometimes we just have to accept, what's going on. And we just have to, I guess, change the way we see things, and always try to see, always try to be, stay positive, always try to stay and always try to be positive, and always try to see the positive out of every situation. I know it's hard, that's why I keep saying try. It's hard, obviously. There's no one person in this world. Yeah.
Like we were saying last week, how powerful your mind is. And it's like the perfect example, going back to, like, obviously touch wood, it's an extreme case, but I actually know people that have had cancer, and the ones that are more positive, they are the ones that get through it.
Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy, but they are, because they're not moping around. They're not, that your body shuts down. When you're in that state, your body will go with it and shut down. But these people that are positive, and they would just go on about their day and, try to, do things and keep their mind and body active, they actually have a better outcome, Obviously, there's some cases where it's very, obviously extreme and it doesn't go that way, but I feel like the more positive you are in any situation, the better the outcome will be. It may not be, it may not fix it, or it may not avoid it, like you were saying before, but it can make it better, and it can help you adjust to this new way and kind of work around that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's like a really good point to
Yeah,
mention.
it's all about how you see things, how you react to things. It's stop reacting, or maybe overreacting to a situation, and try to be like more proactive in the way of, okay, this happened to me, there's nothing I can do about that, but I can do something with this, or I can do something about how I feel about this thing.
Yeah.
Because again, you're the one in control, you're the one that can make that choice.
Yeah.
Just don't forget that we keep bringing this every single second, I feel like, but it's like, it's your life, it's your choice. What happens, it's up to you. Obviously, what's out of your control is out of your control, but what's under your control, it's under your control. So take that control back.
Yeah.
I think we shared some really good strategies for you guys to start dealing with that stress and show that it doesn't really affect your fitness too much. I guess like we touch more like ways that you can deal with stress.
Yeah.
We didn't really touch too much about like cravings, replaces with that, because I feel like there's no point of us talking about how you can change that if you're not really dealing with the solution, with the actual problem,
Dealing with like the root cause of like
Exactly.
why that's happening. Because it's like the same thing with binging. Binging is as a result of your emotions and how you're feeling and things around you. Binging doesn't really happen if you're just like, oh, really content with it. It's an emotion reaction. So and it can be based on a lot of things like trauma. There's all these other things that can come into play, but I feel like it's a reaction to something. So that's why we wanted to talk about, okay, how can you make your circumstances better so that these things happen, to kind of that whole prevention. So
and I feel like we both on the same page with this, because there's no point of us telling you like have an apple instead of having that chocolate if you're feeling stressed, or go out for a walk instead of just staying at home watching TV, which is obviously those things do help, but it's not really going to change much. It's gonna like help with like this, it's gonna help on the surface level, but it's not gonna, exactly, it's not really gonna solve what's here. So that's not really, solving the issue. That's just like putting makeup or putting the bandage on the problem, but that's not really, curing that problem. So yeah, I think we give you guys quite a few tips for you to take on board. But I think the main thing, what I mentioned again, it's your choice, it's your life, it's your choice.
Yeah.
Change or try to be more positive, change that attitude, change that in that person, not that saying of you, I'm feeling stressed with anxious to I'm experiencing, reframe that. It's gonna
Yeah.
help you to feel
Don't
better.
let it label you. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
label, yeah, don't label. Adapt if you can. If not, alter, change something. If not, we just need to accept it. There's always something we can do. Just
Yeah.
remember that there's always something we can do.
Always a
Always,
solution.
always,
Yeah.
always, 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 always. Yeah. But before we go, is there anything else you want to mention or any other tip you want to share with us?
No, I think just like even like us talking about this, it's like I think the biggest message is like, it's your life. You've only got one life. You don't want to waste it away, stressing
Mm.
about everything, wishing that you started your fitness journey earlier, wishing that you put yourself a
Yeah.
priority. There's never the perfect time to start. And I think we always say this and people are like, not that saying again, but it's
Yeah.
true.
Stop.
There's never going to be a perfect time. It's like just do it, start with one thing a week that you can change, whether that will be, instead of, watching TV, like you said, maybe go for a walk. Maybe that's the thing you got to change. You know what I mean? Listen to a podcast instead of watching TV, like, little things like that, like little things that you can do that are going to get you that step closer, and just start with one thing. Don't go all in.
Yeah.
Like we always say, don't try to use all our strategies and
At
like just,
once. Yeah.
yeah, just like pick
Yeah.
one that suits you and go from there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Just go one step at a time, like literally baby steps go a long way. Stop trying to rush everything. Stop trying to go from 0 to 100 and then from 100 to 0, back to 0. It doesn't work like that. One step at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Be grateful that you're alive. I think that's
Yeah.
another thing we didn't mention. Like, just be grateful. Like, even if you have a lot of things going on right now with work, family, relationships, everything, you are still alive.
Yeah.
You are very privileged to have a life. You're
Yes.
very privileged to wake up every single morning, be able to see, be able to touch, smell,
Able to
speak,
walk,
taste,
everything.
walk.
Yes.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
little things I feel like we don't really acknowledge or appreciate too much,
No,
which
we
it
don't.
does make a difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say, yeah, that's another tip for you guys. Try to be a bit more grateful. Yeah, appreciate a little bit more the life
Yeah.
that we have, because we only have one. We don't have
That's
two. We don't get a second chance. We only have one chance. So
even
make
talking
most out
about
of
this,
one
I
chance.
feel better. So like I hope that people when they listen to
Yeah.
this feel better too, because that's what we want to do in these pod talks. We want to try to help people, motivate them, and take as much as they can. So
Mhm. Yeah. But thank you guys for watching this. If you're watching or listening to the podcast, we really hope that this little tips can help you. Again, what Alyssa said, just take what's useful for you and apply it. Don't apply everything at once, one step at a time. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to share it on your social media and tag me at Daniela del Carpio and Alyssa at Empowerment PT by Alyssa.
oh, you got it.
Yeah, I've been practicing.
You've been practicing.
Until next time, and as I always say, don't ever stop believing in yourself. Ciao.